Hi, everybody. We're back with Educate and Elevate Your Employment. I'm John Green, and I'm here with Harriett Richmond. So today's topic is one of importance. Along with pay, we want people to be able to strategize on how they can look at raises and promotions for themselves. So again, we'll talk about how that works in the public sector, and we'll compare and contrast that with the private sector. So with pay and raises, people come in at a certain point. I think the thing that some of us have realized, we have 4 different generations in the workforce now.
Wow. Yep.
And depending on which generation you're talking to, the tenor and the tone is much different, and the expectations.
Yes.
It's particularly realistic expectations. Unfortunately, I've noticed those who are newer to the workforce somehow feel they have this entitlement of I should be, with very limited experience. That's not everyone, but I have noticed like anywhere from 9 months to a year, I need to be promoted. My title needs to be X. I'm like, you're going to be the CEO and you haven't even been the file clerk yet.
Right.
I'm like, how does that work?
I don't know.
So in the federal government, what system do you all have in place when it's time for promotions or raises? And is there a conversation, or is that just a static system that's in place?
It is more of a static system that's in place. And first of all, what I love about this conversation is trying to explain to people we don't have raises in the federal government. We have what we call promotions.
Okay.
And it could be 2 types. It could be a career ladder promotion or a competitive promotion.
What's the difference?
The career ladder is that you're already in the job, and the job is destined to go a certain grade levels.
Okay.
It goes 5, 7, 9. I may have talked about this in our prior episode, or 7, 9, 11, or 12, 13. And so that's what you call a career ladder promotion.
So when you go in, you already know what the top potential is.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that's why we always say, do read your vacancy announcement, because you got to know, does this job have career ladder promotion? The competitive promotion is, in the words competition, you are again going through the hiring process, somewhat of the hiring process, because you could be right there in the agency, but in order to get this next promotion, you have to compete for it. Sometimes you're competing with your peers internally into the organization. Sometimes you're competing with other federal government employees.
Oh.
Sometimes you could be competing with the world,
Okay.
right? It just all depends on what the hiring manager is looking for. And even though you're in the organization, but you're trying to get the next grade.
Okay.
And that typically comes into play, particularly after GS 13. Usually you're going to be competing for the 14, and that's normally supervisory, or you're competing for the 15, that's normally supervisory. There are some non-supervisory 14s and 15s, but they're rare, far few between. But you're still going to be competing for it, because usually that's a different type of responsibilities, and it's a little bit more challenging. The expectations of you in those grade levels is way higher. So they want the best because they're paying you the top dollar at that point, and they want the best. So a lot of times they won't career ladder up to those grade levels. They'll make you compete for it.
Is there anything that people in the federal government can do for promotions or raises? Again, I know it's very limited, but is there anything that helps them?
You better perform at the fully successful level at a
Okay.
minimum.
Okay.
And again, no raises. This is promotions. So in order to get that career ladder promotion, you have to be at least fully successful or at your current position. And then the not hiring manager, your supervisor has to make a determination. Can you perform at the next grade level?
Okay.
And so there's a 2-prong approach to it, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm doing this job well. Yes, good. But can you do the next job well? And that comes into play. Like sometimes if you're GS-12, you may require a level of supervision, but in order to be a GS-13, you should be demonstrating the ability to work with a level of independence.
Okay.
And if you're not demonstrating that, again, you could be doing the job very well when you're
An individual
supervised.
contributor.
Yes.
Yes.
You could be doing it. But the supervisor may feel like, can you really perform independently now at the GS-13 level? Because that's the expectation, that you're operating with a level of autonomy and can take on bigger level of roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
So if you don't show that, the manager could say, I don't think you're ready for promotion. Let's wait a while.
Yeah, in the private sector, again, depending on the organization where you are and the structure that they have, it might be a little more open, or it might be just as structured as the federal government, depending on the organization. So, again, some of the things I'd want to caution people to do to give them some strategies: do your research. Again, if you are interested in making more money or asking for a raise, what have you contributed? So just like you're fully successful, come with receipts. Come with receipts. Over the past year, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've met goals, this, and this, and I've proven myself. I've been in these meetings. I'm a great communicator. So you have to show what your attributes are, so they actually are looking at you or even considering what you're asking for if you're not even on the radar. So again, being respectful, but also having a lot of confidence in what it is you bring to the table to justify what it is you're asking for. Again, bring data, do your research, go online, look to see what the average salary is in your area for that position that you're looking for, or even the position that you're in if you feel like you're being underpaid. Unfortunately, my other thing is nobody's handcuffing you. It's an open market. Feel free to apply elsewhere to give yourself some data and a barometer for yourself to see if you're even being paid fairly. You might find that, oh, let me sit here because everywhere else I've looked or interviewed, I'm being paid, $10,000 more than everywhere else. So this is pretty good. I must be missing something. So, in the private sector, there are ways to, get promotions, ask for promotions. And if you're in a larger organization, you probably have a greater possibility of being promoted because they have several levels. Smaller organizations are typically flat, don't have a lot of levels. You got to wait for somebody to literally die out of their chair in order for that to open to even be considered internally for that position.
That's a very good point, and that particularly can happen with major metropolitan areas where in the federal government a particular job could go all the way up to the GS-13 level. But if you're in a less populated area in the Midwest, or then the jobs it kind of matches the environment. If it's not a high paying area, then the government grades are not going to be that high. It's going to match the market. So that's a very good point. And what happens in the federal government, a lot of people, they may apply for a job for a higher raise, promotion. I shouldn't say raise, but a higher promotion, but they got to move. They got to move to another area to get that high promotion. And then they have to make a decision. Is the cost of living going to make me realize this additional money that I'm getting for the promotion? Because if it doesn't, you might as well stay where you are, right? Because the cost of living is cheaper wherever you are. So you got to make those type of determinations.
Some other factors are for people to be considered, or people to look at you as, worthy. Know the business. So yes, your position might just be in marketing, but what is it that we're doing in the market? Do you know our products? Are you able to talk competently to the customers? Do you know what's going on, nationally in the industries, like what other economic factors may affect our organization and particularly your specific job? But, staying educated on what it is that the organization does, improving your wealth and worth in that area. Other things are take on extra projects that show that you can lead things. It's great to be an individual contributor, but if you have an opportunity to either, I don't know, volunteer on a committee or something else, volunteer to be the leader to show that you have leadership skills and communication. So,
No, I think it goes back to, and we talked about it in a prior episode,
mm-hmm.
being that star,
Yep.
looking for those things that we talked about building your resume, but also building your promotion development,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being able to prove to someone, because some people think promotions are automatic. They're not.
Not at
Really
all.
proving to someone that, again, you're ready for the next grade level, either competitively or in a career ladder promotion. So I think you're right as far as don't fall for, and I know this is a myth in the federal government, oh, you're just going to get your career ladder promotion, you don't have to do anything extra. No, your supervisor or manager needs to feel good about promoting you. And so you do have to do the things that you just talked about, just like in the private sector, to prove to somebody you're ready for the next promotion. Don't just assume. And if you have to compete for it, it's really critical that you've done all that you can in order to demonstrate by your resume that you're ready for the next grade level.
Yeah, and some of the things that people shouldn't do are really self promote. It's good to be able to talk to the things that you have done, but there's a very big difference in being arrogant and being self promoting versus letting the work speak for itself and
Yes.
other people noticing, whenever I give it to Tom, I know I'm going to get it back. It's going to be correct. People always ask for them to be on projects because they communicate well. So let your work speak for itself instead of you always having to spew, oh, I'm so great. People don't like that at all. And I'm telling you now, people in HR definitely don't
Right.
like it.
We definitely don't like
Yeah,
it.
because
And it's funny you should mention that because people don't think that's a critical point in the public sector. But yes, managers will also start to shun you. They don't want to be bothered with you. So because you're self-promoting yourself and don't let your work not show for it.
yeah.
That's even worse,
I
right?
do have a caveat. It's don't self promote except during your evaluation.
Okay, that's a good point.
List everything that you have done,
Right.
show everything that you have been responsible for, all the goals that you have hit. That is the time to self promote. But just walking around the office, going, look at the S on my chest, how great I am. Don't do that.
Right.
Have an honest conversation with your boss. Let them know that you feel you're ready for the next step. Find out if there are any gaps you need to fill. I'd like to go, I'm a manager now. I'd like to be the director within the next 18 months.
Very good point.
What is it I need to do? In my job, I do X, Y, and Z. What gap do you see I need to fill in order to make it to the next step? They're giving you clues and information and things that you need, that might be education, that might be projects, that might just be more time and exposure in the company, doing presentations or
Right.
something around that. But do have an honest conversation with your boss. What I will warn against is going over your boss's head because you don't like the answer. If your boss is telling you, yes, you need to, I would suggest maybe going back to school, getting the certification or going to this seminar, and you don't want to spend any extra time doing that. And you go, well, I think your boss will give me a better answer. Let me go talk to them. That's not going to bode well because your boss is probably going to have input on why you should or shouldn't be promoted. So
That's good points.
Yeah.
Now you know the difference between promotions in the federal government, career and competitive, and what you need to do in order to get that raise in the private sector. If you had to give them one takeaway, what would it be?
again, do your research. Come with data. I've had many people come in my office. I don't want to know about your feelings. I feel like I should be. I feel like I should be making. Why do you feel? Just because people who come in and go, I've been doing some research and I found that, and I'm like, well, what do you have? And they pull out data. I went to salary.com. It says this. I went to such and such, bring me sources. and data, and then I'll make consideration. It shows me that you have actually done your research. You're basing your ask on data, not feelings.
Right.
Data doesn't lie. I can use the data to justify and talk to your manager, or if there's a hiring committee going, we're paying below market, as you see here, da 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 da. So I appreciate data. Do your research before coming to ask, and I feel is not an appropriate ask.
Yes. And I think the same thing in the federal government. Do your research as far as how the process goes with career ladder promotions and what is required in the next grade level, particularly if you're in a career ladder promotion or even a competitive one. Knowing what's needed in order to get that next promotion, do your research.
Yep.
All right.
So, well, good. All righty. Well, there you go. These are some tips that you can take with you in regards to promotions and raises. Hope it's been fruitful for you. And we will see you in the next episode of Educate and Elevate Your Employment.